Gonzalez.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair and members. It's my pleasure to present Senate Bill 1280 that transitions California to more sustainable outdoor recreation by requiring small propane cylinders sold in the state to be reusable or refillable starting on January 1st, 2028. And we do have a prop, but the prop is the status quo. Right now, everywhere in this state, and especially for those of us that have a lot of parks or beaches in our district, these are left. What you're seeing is a truck that trucks these out of Yosemite National Park. It costs $75,000 to truck them just out of Yosemite before the recycling. And right now, it is the obligation of the parks, the cities, the counties, the parks districts to do it, which is why the League of Cities, counties, rural counties, waste management organizations backed this bill. The reason it allows it to phase in until January 1st, 2028 is really allow the market to catch up with the market signal that this bill will send. When I was in the assembly, I did the bills on more efficient toilets. And when that happened, when it was actually in the regulations of the building codes, we had troubles. But when we allowed it to trend in percentages by year in the market, the companies could get with it. It went that way. And that's what we're doing here. And a 2021 report from the Statewide Commission on Recycling Markets and Curbside Recycling said that single-use 1-pound propane cylinders are a threat to human and environmental health. When empty, and so-called empty, they still contain a small amount of gas, posing a danger to the sanitation workers due to the risk of explosion and resulting fires. I mentioned how much is paid. There's been an animated debate about whether to go back and forth between extended producer responsibility, and frankly, I support a universal extended producer responsibility. That's where we should go. But that costs money, and that is highly unlikely to be passed this year in the legislature. This is a problem that needs to be addressed. This bill has passed both houses before, and I'm asking to do it again. There was an animated debate and 6 weeks of leafleting outside the Capitol and other things. Got out of the Senate 32-7 with Republicans joining Democrats in doing it. Because I think when the argument sees the light of day of what this is, it's not about systems or processes or do this or we favor that bill. It's about addressing this issue now. That's the status quo, and we have a chance to change it. I have two witnesses, Priscilla Quiros on behalf of the bill sponsor, the California Product Stewardship Council, and John Kennedy on behalf of the Rural County Representatives of California. Appreciate the chance to present and look forward to your questions.
Good afternoon, Chair and members. Priscilla Quiros here on behalf of the California Product Stewardship Council, proud sponsors of SB 1280. First, I just want to thank the Senator and his staff for all their work this past year on this issue. Non-refillable 1-pound propane cylinders pose significant challenges. They're expensive to manage properly and dangerous due to their flammable content. There are some jurisdictions that pay approximately $3 per tank and some that pay as high as $65 per tank. Ultimately, the ratepayers are the ones who bear the costs associated with this cylinder disposal. As the committee analysis noted, in 2022, Senator Wieckowski introduced a similar legislation, but it was vetoed. We took that veto message and worked with Senator Laird last year and earlier this year and tried to work with the opposition on the California-based EPR program. However, the opposition continued to stall and pose challenges throughout the process. For perspective, we couldn't even get past definitions in that past bill. Since the veto message, however, the availability for refillable 1-pound propane cylinders have rapidly expanded. With their growing network, retailers offering options to purchase, refill, exchange these cylinders. The number of locations offering these cylinders have increased significantly, including major national retailers like Ace Hardware, True Value, Home Depot, and REI. Our latest analysis indicates that there are currently 250 and 500 venues in California that we suspect that will increase. Additionally, in the last 2 years since that veto message, we've seen a 50% increase for exchange model and 200% increase in these cylinders sold nationwide. Transitioning out of the disposable propane cylinders will move consumers to a more sustainable option. From a waste perspective, this bill provides actual source reduction. From a financial perspective, the bill saves local, state, and federal government money because they won't be spending millions of dollars of disposable containers entering the waste stream. For these reasons, that's why we respectfully ask for your aye vote. And then just on behalf of Stop Waste, Western Plaster Waste Management Authority, and Solid Waste Association North America Legislative Task Force, they are all in support of this measure. Thank you.
Good afternoon. John Kennedy with Rural County Representatives of California. We're pleased to be here in support of this bill today. We think it's very important. These single-use propane cylinders are very difficult for us to manage. They end up in our landfills and our HHW collection facilities, and it's really difficult for us to figure out whether they're empty and can go into the trash or not. And so we've got to manage them as hazardous waste. As the author mentioned, as little as $3, which is a huge portion of what it actually costs the consumer to purchase these at the point of sale, and up significantly. We have a lot of rural counties. We have a lot of parks. We have a lot of state parks, national parks, and campgrounds. So we see a lot of these propane cylinders come to our counties and get left there. And we don't have a lot of people. And those smaller populations then have to pay for the costs of managing these propane cylinders, getting them safely disposed. So we appreciate this bill. We think it's a small step in product redesign with incremental costs. At that point, will reap tremendous rewards on the back end, not only for local governments, but for consumers who don't have to pay these costs associated with managing these at the end of life. So for those reasons, we support 1280 today. Thank you.
Are there any persons in this hearing room who support this measure?
Catherine Freeman on behalf of the California State Association of Counties in support. Thank you.
Melissa Sparks-Kranz with the League of California Cities in support.
Tony Hackett, Californians Against Waste, in support.
Jean Hurst on behalf of the Santa Barbara County Board of Supervisors in support. Kayla Robinson on behalf of Rethink Waste in support. Thanks. Stephanie Morrill on behalf of Recology in support.
Good afternoon. Michael Caprio here for Republic Services in support.
Good afternoon, Lindsay Goldhorn with the Resource Recovery Coalition of California in support.
Josh Simpson with Little Camper Propane in strong support.
Jordan Wells with the National Stewardship Action Council in strong support.
Thank you so much. Is there opposition in the room? Come on down. And since we allowed Senator Laird to have props, we got your request to also share a picture.
My big prop. So I do appreciate that. Thank you. Mike Robeson here on behalf of Worthington Enterprises in opposition. The picture does tell us a bit of a story, and it's part of my testimony, to be honest, so I appreciate you letting me show it. But so looking at the picture, this is a fuel container collection bin. It's actually at Yosemite. So this is at the Yosemite campgrounds, and it collects all. They're collecting all the cylinders that are being used at the park, by their consumers or the people who are camping there. And so what you want to look at in there is that the middle cylinder is the propane cylinder that this bill would ban. That's the 1 pound disposable cylinder that would be banned. The one to the left of it, the blue tall one, that's a torch cylinder. It also holds propane. It has the same valve as the middle cylinder. It's the exact same valve. Obviously, people are using that on their camping stoves at Yosemite, and to be honest, if this bill were to pass and become law, they'll continue to do so. They will simply take the $6 cylinder that's in the middle and swap it for the tall cylinder to its left, or they'll use the other fuel cylinders that are there. They'll change their camping stove. If you have to buy 5 or 6 of the reusable, refillable cylinders, you're hitting a price point that actually just begs you to swap out your stove and say, oh well, I just won't use a propane gas stove anymore. I'll just use an isobutane gas stove. All these products are being used today. And all of them, if this bill were to pass, all of them will continue to be used at Yosemite, at all the other parks, because people are going to find their way to do the cheapest, most convenient fueling option that they have. They'll still get even the product that you're banned, because there's no enforcement in this bill, and there's no way it would be enforced. But some other points that I just want to bring up is, well, the right solution, the picture tells you, is EPR. So we want an EPR solution. We want, as the producer, as the biggest producer, Worthington wants a producer, responsibility program for these cylinders in California. We unfortunately haven't got there, but Worthington is helping to implement Connecticut's EPR law. They're working in other states. They are doing this in Canada. Worthington is fully in Canada's producer responsibility program for all these pressurized gas cylinders. So if you want to solve the environmental problem, solve it for all the pressurized gas cylinders. Don't just pick a winner and a loser in the marketplace, because that's what this bill actually does. The bill's actually just designed to push one product out of the marketplace in favor of a single other product that is reusable. And there's a reason Worthington doesn't make a reusable product today. They certainly can. They're the largest domestic manufacturer of cylinders in the country. They don't believe, besides the fact that consumers don't want the inconvenience, they also don't believe it's safe. The 1 pound cylinder, the reusable product that this bill will help sell doesn't have an overfill protection device in it. And the overfill protection device is pretty critical. That's what's in a 20-pound barbecue tank now. So when that barbecue tank is full, the 20-pound tank is full, it shuts off. This one doesn't. It just spews propane out the side. And so if you're lending yourself to a situation where consumers are going to be...
We've been incredibly generous.
I know. You're great. Where consumers are going to be wanting to refill these cylinders themselves. In fact, one of the proponents, in the proponent stuff, Flame King actually markets a refillable valve kit. And so people are going to be sitting in their backyards or out campgrounds or whatever. Possibly, they're just not safe. And Worthington, as a responsible manufacturer in the United States, doesn't think that the risk and the liability is worth it. I'll stop right there. Hopefully somebody asks me something, because I have a lot to say.
Thank you, sir. Can definitely tell that this is an important issue to you. Any opposition in the hearing room who would like to add their voice?
Ryan Lane, on behalf of California Retailers Association, respectfully opposed.
Thank you so much. We'll turn it now to committee members. Questions, comments? Mr. Hoover.
Got a couple questions. Senator, thank you for bringing this bill forward. How long has the refillable product been on the market? Do we have an idea?
I don't even know.
Okay.
I mean, I just know it's on the market, but what this does is this really says the refillable will be the market by 2028. And as was said, worried about the comparison in dollars, 80% of the cost is the non-refillable cylinder. So if you are refilling it, you're reducing the cost on an ongoing basis.
Okay. So I guess, Senator, real quickly, and then I do have a question and I'll ask you. But why not an EPR? I mean, why? First of all, are we able to recycle these currently? And why not go with the EPR approach?
Well, actually, we tried to go through do the EPR last year. Everybody opposing it, including the guys sitting at this table, stalled completely. Their goal is to not have this. We wanted that. And that was our goal last year. Now, as I said in the opening statement, no EPR, in my view, will pass this year because of the cost. So advocating for EPR this year is advocating for no solution this year.
Is there a reason that these refillable products haven't gotten more of a market share? I mean, I think I do have some concerns that there's no market for the consumers for these. I mean, you said there's 250 of these in the state. I mean, that seems like a really small number.
Yeah, but let me say, the car owners in Detroit said there was no market for hybrids or other things because people weren't given the opportunity to have them. And the minute they did, it turned out there was an unbelievable market. And that's what we're trying to do with this bill.
Okay. I mean, there certainly is a market, obviously, for the larger tanks, right? So we do know that that exists. It just seems interesting to me that doesn't translate to this market. So can you, if I may ask the opposition, on the current recycling practices of these, can they currently be recycled? Like, is that happening? And is this really just like a cost issue, or are there other issues involved?
I believe they are recycled. I don't know the process for how these are recycled. I know they get collected. They go through the, either through the waste stream, and probably a lot of them do end up at HHW facilities, and then they get sent to a scrap metal recycler. But just for what it's worth, also, Assemblyman Hoover, the refillable product's been on the market for 10 years, and it's been the state has been funding a Refuel Your Fund marketing and advocacy campaign for 9 years. Analysis points out $2.5 million has been spent pushing this refillable product, yet there's only 250 retailers.
So, last question, Mr. Chair. I apologize. So I guess what is the opposition open to coming to the table on this alternative issue? I mean, obviously there's a cost issue there, as the senator mentioned, but I mean, is there another method we can get to here?
I mean, again, we do support a producer responsibility program. Here's the thing. I don't think we stalled. I mean, I don't know what to say to this. Is that Worthington is involved in an EPR program in Connecticut. They want to do it in other states. They want to do it here. It's something to just for this committee, producer responsibility. We got to start thinking about public policies around producer responsibility to ensure that the producer actually has a seat at the table in a program that is designed for them to be responsible for. We can't just legislate producer responsibility laws and not have the producers have some say in how it's crafted. And so we had some breakdown on language. There was language in that bill that would have required collection sites based on population that had no bearing on how the product is used. And so we would have ended up with, on the language, the last version of language that we saw, there would have been like 1,100 collection sites for this product. The paint care program only has 700 collection sites. So you would actually be, it's just a lot of bureaucracy for no gain. If you want the producers to be responsible, hold the producers, set some goals and hold them responsible. And if they don't meet their obligation, then they can't sell their product.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Assemblymember Bauer-Cahan.
So I apologize, I got a call and had to step out, but if I heard correctly as I stepped in, the reason Worthington doesn't want to get into the refillable business is a concern for liability.
They believe it is an unsafe product
Right,
today.
okay,
The
that's what I
valve
thought.
is, yes.
So we've confirmed that this has been around for a decade. Can you tell us what harm has come to pass in the last decade of these refillable being on the market that causes them to believe that?
Well, I can speak to it. I mean, I will say, and they have the information too, and so there is the way it's used is if you self-refill, you flip a 20-pound barbecue tank upside down, you put a little adapter kit and a valve on there, and you fill it. And the valve on the refillable is not doesn't have an OPD,
Right.
and they think that's not safe.
Right.
And as far as accidents, I can't point to one.
So it's been 10 years and nobody that we know of has been harmed, but we can't go to refillable because we're afraid that somebody might be harmed? That seems irrational.
Well, they haven't sold that many of them, to be honest, in the course of 10 years either. So we could point to a situation where somebody tried to fill a disposable. They filled the disposable, which they shouldn't do, and Worthington's product says don't refill. It's not to be refilled. But somebody did that. It exploded. It killed somebody. And it didn't explode because it was the refillable, the reusable, the disposable cylinder. It exploded because of the valve, the valve connection, the adapter device was not working properly. So that situation would exist whether it was a reusable or a disposable.
Are the refillable, I mean, I can't imagine ever, but I'm not super handy, trying to refill one of these myself, and I didn't think that was the intent. I thought places like REI would be refill centers for these things.
Yeah, so California Product Stewardship Council really is trying to get more of an exchange model like the 20-pounders, right?
Right.
We are encouraging that. With the refillable 1-pound propane cylinders, there is a bleeder valve, which does make it safer for a consumer to refill it. Or they can go to, let's say, U-Haul or an Ace Hardware and get it refilled by a professional, and it actually saves them money over time because it's only like $1 or $2 to refill it. And so we encourage for those two. We don't really encourage for consumers to refill it themselves, but we have seen that consumers try to refill the non-refillable cylinders, and because it doesn't have that bleeder valve, that's what makes it dangerous, and that's where you see a death. And so that's why it's we're encouraging this different direction of ensuring that, if folks do want to, because we see YouTubes on there of folks encouraging, like, hey, you can refill these non-refillables. So we're educating folks. But really what we're trying to do is mimic what the 20-pounders have always been, which has been refillable.
Right. And, well, the 20-pounders are refillable, but
yeah.
not at home. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, I've never tried to refill mine.
Sorry, exchange, yeah.
Yeah. And then, does the law currently require on the refillable ones a warning of any kind? Do we know?
I think there is a safety warning
Safety
on
warning.
there.
I mean, I think that if not, and it's not the jurisdiction of this committee, but I do think that would make sense if we're requiring them all to be refillable, even if not, that there be some sort of safety warning telling people not to turn over their barbecue and do this. So maybe that's something you could consider amending to your bill, Senator. But given that it has been a decade and we have zero evidence of harm to individuals, I actually think that there's not much reason for folks to not all go to the refillable model, which obviously is significantly better for the community. So with that, I'm happy to support the bill.
Thank you. Other questions or comments by committee members? Vice Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Senator, for the bill, and thank you for the opposition. And to my colleague, this is a weird bill for me. It really is, because I, in a lot of ways, support the idea, but on the practicality and the safety of it, I actually do have a ton of concerns. And my colleague kind of brought up a few of them. And for the record, I am going to be laying off this bill, and I look forward to having continued conversations before it gets to the floor. But on the safety side of things, which is absolutely where I'm coming from on this, in the last 10 years that we've had these on the market, very few people are actually doing this, right? I don't know the reasons why, other than convenience, where you can just go buy new ones. It is a huge concern of mine that you would take a 20-pound tank and figure out how to refill a 1-pounder at home. And I can guarantee you, when we ban the disposable ones, that will happen more often. There will be a lot of folks that are trying to do this at home. And so I find this, and I know my colleague, she says she's not handy, I disagree. But there is a lot of safety mechanisms that I feel like are missing in this piece of legislation. There really are. And when you talk about convenience in society, when you take a 20-pound tank, and I don't know how many times I've gone to an Ace or Home Depot or whoever that has those, and you're waiting to exchange it. People aren't available because they're busy doing their jobs, and you end up just swiping your credit card and getting a new tank. I mean, I currently have probably 5 tanks in my garage that are empty that I should probably go exchange, right? So I just, there's a lot in this that I think we need to work out. And I prefer the recycling mechanism. I really do. And I understand that, last year's last year, and, it's a new bill today. But anything you can comment maybe, or opposition, or, supporters, like, we do not want people filling these tanks at home. We don't want that. And we want convenience. If we're actually going to create a system where we want people to take a 1-pound tank from a camping trip, we need to make it convenient for them as well. And I don't feel that we have that right now.
Well, oh, sorry.
Yes, sir.
I would just on the safety point, and maybe I might not have answered Mr. Hoover, Assemblyman Hoover's question well, but if you're going to if you're gonna create an only in market for the reusable product, you ought to have something in there as somebody remember Bauer Cahan said, something to ensure safety. So Canada prohibits self-refilling of these cylinders, even the refillable ones. They prohibit self-refilling. They require these to be filled by trained and licensed personnel. That's the Ontario, in Canada, province of Ontario, requires it to be done by trained and licensed personnel. I mentioned the overfill protection device, that it's lacking it's in the 20-pound tank, but it's lacking in the 1-pound refillable. You should require an overfill protection device in the refillable cylinder. If that's going to be the only product in the marketplace, then require an overfill protection device in it. That'd be some suggestions for this committee to think about.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if I can just mention one thing, with products liability, you're going to develop a product that is actually safe for the marketplace. So if that's what's required to make this refillable product safe, you as a manufacturer are going to do that. Otherwise, you're going to have significant product liability claims in the future. So I'm kind of scratching my head at some of that stuff.
Any comments, Senator?
Oh, I'll reserve it for my close if we ever get to it.
We should at some point. Is there another question from a committee member? Senator Bauer Cahan.
I just would like to hear what you have to say about if you have anything to add on the consumer protection side of this.
Well, I honestly believe what was said is there's product liability. It's going to incent it. We have till 2028. If there are any issues that really reserve will deal with it. And that I have an endorsement letter from the California Professional Firefighters because they think the current situation is at risk to firefighters, both in what the gas is occasionally left and when they have to go into homes and they don't know when they're going in with regard to it. So I'm confident there's anything here we could deal with if it is not already dealt with. And the real issue is that it's not that there's existing recycle, there's existing disposal. And the existing disposal presents risks as well so it's a balance sheet on the safety, and we have to deal with. And we have an option to getting to completely safe.
Senator Laird, would you like to use that as your close?
I would. I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Thank you. And thank you, colleagues, for this robust conversation. I think this bill has been on a multi-year trajectory because this policy conversation is important. This bill does enjoy a due pass record from the chair. Madam Secretary, can we call the roll? Oh, do we have a motion, Ms. Bauer Cahan, and a second by Senator Friedman?
The motion is due pass to appropriations. Brian?
Aye.
Brian, aye. Flora? Flora not voting. Bauer Cahan? Bauer Cahan, aye. Friedman? Friedman, aye. Hoover? Hoover, no. Cholera? Cholera, aye. Lackey?
Not sure.
Not voting. Mertsucci? Mertsucci, aye. Pellerin? Aye. Pellerin, aye. Wicks? Wood.
Gail, are you going to present your bill next? I want
Well,
to be there for that, so I'll try to get there.
We'll leave that bill on call. Would you like to do Senator Gonzalez 1182?